Well, the commission was an emotional roller coaster ride because people spoke about their own personal experiences.
It ended up being 21 rapes, including the 5. There was one little girl that died before they apprehended the suspect, and he was a serial. We failed them. We talk about them having human rights, access to health, access to justice. We don't think about what these children, these young adults, these people have to go through, and the effect of sexual violence on them.
The commission itself is not something that communities are used to, especially Khayelitsha. I think it's probably one of the 2 commissions that have ever happened in that community. So it does bring a lot of anxiety in the community because they don't know about it. Eventually the community warmed up. As the process of inquiry was progressing and we were talking about it, it was in the media, it became packed. The hall was packed, there was no place to sit.
It's disheartening. There's just plainly not enough personnel available on the station to do what is required from them.
All rise.
Well, it was a big process because we must have gone through 50,000 police documents because we had to understand the national instructions, the standing orders of the police, their policies. We went through police dockets in Khayelitsha. We took more than 200 affidavits from members of the public. We called in expert witnesses to testify on various aspects.
The evidence that I shall give shall be the truth.
And the Constitution already gave the province sufficient oversight powers.
So it was a huge operation. We had to call in senior members of the police to come in and testify. The Provincial Commission of Police, General Lamour at the time, had to testify, and some of his generals, teachers as well, because also there was a problem of violence at schools. So we called in quite a number of people.
There can be no doubt that conventional or so-called normal policing methods or strategies cannot be deployed or used in many parts of Khayelitsha, particularly in areas that exhibit high-density informal settlements. None of the strategies proposed by the NGOs or by some witnesses will make any difference.
Initially, the police were apprehensive because they were not sure. They thought this was going to be a witch hunt. We made it clear from the outset. The idea was to look at the actual problems, the root causes of the problem, and try and find solutions.
Kuleyo indima ndingathi abantu abakwazi kulinda. Yilento ebangela uba ukuze mabathi amapolisa awasembi because abakwazi ukulinda. Xa kuthiwe kuba mabalinde abafuni ukuyenza loo nto. Bafuna into mayenzeke ngomzuzu.
Policemen work under tremendous pressure, and I think things can get very, very uptight if you have 3 or 4 of them in one office. It's not a recipe for success.
The commission was an attempt for communities to engage with the state, but not just for certain people to go and present our views, because that's what happened in a court case. It's only the lawyers who have the lawyer language, whereas ordinary people have a right to be heard in their own language because they are the ones who are actually bearing the brunt. And the commission opened it up. We spoke evidence from our own experience.
Okokobathi kuma ndikhangele ba undawuni na eGauteng kulapho ndaphelelwa lithemba lamapolisa ndazixelela into kokuba ndiyekile kodwa bendingayiyekanga ngophela ngoba ihlahla lifike kumlonto yabantwana.
There were 2 Masile high school boys that were killed in a gang fight. There are no police around in that school, or there is no patrolling happening around that school.
I went to the detective in charge He responded in a very harsh tone. What about the case and what do you want to know about the case? And then I told him that as a deceased family, we need to know the details around the case and the circumstances around the case. And he said the lady was caught with his body halfway through the window of a house breaking in, and he was murdered.
It was also the first time that community members, people from Khayelitsha, the organizations involved, actually got to listen to police and senior members of the police give testimony and be held accountable. And that was the first time that that's happened. So that was also just quite an important moment.
The police is an organization that are many years old, and there's some even young ones that comes in now that already have the attitude that cowboys don't cry.
It allowed communities to be in the same room with the people that we always see as them.
That is what the Commission did. Is it opened up understanding how the forensic science laboratories work or don't work, how they're resourced or not resourced, whether cells have toilet paper or not, how victims of crime are treated or not. Facilities, police stations, human resources. It was really an education for me to see at granular level how the police operates and to recognize that it is not simply a question of a lack of will to fix this, but there's a culture and a bureaucracy in the Weberian sense which is difficult to break.
Okwethu ukuphucula inkonzo zokhuseleko, ukusondeza inkonzo zokulungisa nokuphucula imeko amapolisa asebenza phansi kwazo ukuze nawo aphucule umgangatho wenkonzo kubahlali.
Sometimes there is lack of realization, especially for those who are high up in the ranks, the impact of the decisions that they take at provincial level, what it does at community level.
Show that the police are members of the Khayelitsha community. They have a strategic alliance with community organizations operating there. They share a common interest, they share a common objective, and that is to ensure the safety and security of the community in accordance with the Constitution.
We produced 540 pages or so with a number of recommendations, looking at the question of resources, looking at the issue of the performance management, looking at the question of, structures, being set up properly, within the communities and the police, having constant meetings, we spoke about the importance of not only the police doing out their work well, but also the police to look at themselves internally and see how they treat their own employees.
Well, I'm prepared to apologize for the lack of services rendered to address the crime problems in the Khayelitsha area.
Seeing the police really changing their tone and really apologizing to the victims of crime and everyone in Khayelitsha, it again changed the tone of the commission, where it was just them being defensive every time evidence was brought forward. But I think after a few days of the public hearings, they realized this is not about our client wanting to protect their political agenda. This is about people on the ground.